This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host Keith Angle on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. Our Sunday stream of consciousness show here on TGI Sports Talk right here on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. Guys, great to have you with me today. Thank you to all the groups that allow me to share this later. Some great numbers the last few Sundays to some of the groups that I've been able to share to. So thank you very much for that. And we're live right now on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. You'll catch us at noon on Roku. And all through the week, you can catch us either on TGI Sports Talk's Facebook page or YouTube page, Twitter. You can catch us on the podcast channels, iHeartRadio, all of those. So good morning to everybody. Thank you for your support. All of you that will be in the room today and comment. We'll have Jim Biringer on a little bit. Lots of news in the NHL world. 3 Game 7s yesterday, 2 today. The Panthers break a huge drought. The Maple Leafs continue to flame out early. The Rangers trying to come back from a 3-1 deficit. We'll talk to Jim Biringer about all of that and more. We'll dive into Major League Baseball, of course. We'll look around the league, look at some power rankings, some of the top rookies, some other news and notes, and we'll also dive into the NFL schedule a bit and talk a little bit about NFL, and then we'll have Mark Mancini from Mancini Sports in at 10:30ish. Beautiful weekend yet up until today. It's going to be a rainy day here in the Northeast, but my wife's away in North Carolina for the weekend and played golf yesterday. Great day on the golf course. Early morning golf, love it. Out in the tee by 6:45, home by noon. Gotta love it. But today's going to be a day of rest after this show. So anyway, good morning. Let's see who's in here with us right now to say good morning to. Good morning, Rick Sherlock. Good to have you on. Good morning to Alan. Our regulars are here bright and early. Yes. We're looking forward to Jim today. I've shared a lot of Jim's stuff, obviously, here through the playoffs. His quick game commentaries, the show, his articles. Check Full Press Hockey is where Jim's at, by the way. And don't forget to check that stuff out. I want to talk to him about some of we're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. He had a recent article about the lack of consistency in the goalie interference calls in the playoffs. There's been some other inconsistent refereeing, I guess, in my mind and in some people's minds. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Sidney Crosby hit, which I think was perfectly legal, just a hard hockey hit. Some people are up in arms. Of course, most of them are Pittsburgh Penguin fans. Maybe we'll also, I don't know. I got so much to talk to Jim about today. We'll probably we won't be able to get into all of it, I'm sure, but we'll do the best we can. A little bit of news last night. Yankees and Mets win and lose in similar fashions. The Mets come back and win a late game home run from their recent call up phenom and Patrick. Too many of these guys, I just cannot pronounce their names. What's going on in the world? Mazakia's home run to help win the game last night. And the Yankees lose on a walk-off hit in the 9th inning by Chapman giving up to Luis Roberts to the White Sox. Chapman's, man, I tell you, the Yankees are playing well, and I had to do a mea culpa a vlog on Friday if you didn't catch it. They're playing well, and everything that I was concerned about, they've kind of turned around and playing well. Now, Chapman is still one of those question marks. He's got 9 walks in the last 8 innings. That's not what you need out of your closer, man. So, that concerns me a little bit. We're going to dive into some other stuff. You know, while we wait for Jim, well, let me talk a little bit about, if I can find my mouse. Let's talk a little bit about the Dream Ride experience, guys. Great event, a great fundraiser for the Homeland Foundation out there in Farmington, Connecticut. Check this out. 8/26. This will be 8/26 to 8/28. A lot of stuff going on. A great event. They've raised $3 million last year, $18 million overall. And Northeast Streaming Sports is a huge sponsor of this event. And I'll play it again later in the show. But let's just run this real quick, and then we'll jump into some sports. And Jim Biringer should be with us in another 5 minutes.
The Hometown Foundation is excited to bring back the Dream Ride experience, August 26th to the 28th at Connecticut's Farmington Polo Club. Join us in celebrating the accomplishments of our Dream Riders while enjoying live music, a car and motorcycle show, family fun zone, pet adoptions, canine demonstrations, the Fireman's Chili Cook-Off, and much, much more. Get your tickets today.
Looks like a great event, doesn't it? And I'm going to try to get out there, I think, that Saturday. Still considering, I got to talk to my wife, obviously, but we'll see how it goes. Saints have the Bird Gauntlet this season. No team has ever beaten every team in that gauntlet. Oh, gosh. I'm not sure if it's a real thing to react to, Alan, or not. I mean, it's an interesting stat, but we'll see. There's some interesting stuff going on with the NHL or the NFL schedule. We'll talk a little bit about that. I got to talk about Brady, and maybe we'll talk about Brady right now real quick before we jump into Jim Biringer. Let's just touch on this Tom Brady thing. I'll touch on it again later. We've got a little bigger audience as well. Tom Brady, Fox, you talk about an overreaction to losing your main analyst, right? They lost, as you know, Troy Aikman will join Joe Buck on ESPN Monday Night Football. And whatever you think about Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, I think Troy Aikman's a great analyst. And I do think Joe Buck gets beat up too badly. But in a major overreaction, Fox, in my mind, an overreaction, Fox has already signed Tom Brady to a 10-year, $375 million contract for whenever he retires to be the head lead analyst. First of all, I have my doubts whether this will happen anytime soon. I have my doubts whether Tom Brady wants to be a commentator and whether he'll be any good. He's spent a career being bland purposely, and he admitted as much. So I don't know whether this is going to be a great fit. And, you know, you guarantee the guy the number one spot without any even testing or whatever you want to say. I think it's very interesting. Also, if it does come to fruition, he'll make more in that 10 years than he's made in his entire 22-year NFL career. So there's money to be made, man, as you go forward. We'll jump more into this football stuff, too. Falcons twice, of course. Ravens, Eagles, Seahawks. Interesting. Tom will be okay. He's been practicing the last few films he's done. Well, you know, he's done some good stuff. And actually, I watched an ESPN documentary on the Tuck rule, where he watched the game with Charles Woodson from the Raiders, who obviously hit him in that game. It's a great documentary if you want to watch it. And, you know, Tom is much more, you know, personable in these situations again, but those are different situations than broadcasting NFL games. Not everybody can do this. Joe Montana was a flop. You know, many guys have not been able to make this transition. So again, it's a pretty big leap of faith, I think, from Fox, for Fox. But again, they've got to do something because they lost both their main play-by-play or their play-by-play guy and the analyst in 1 year. And ESPN certainly will be the benefactor of that. Their numbers will spike. You guys can say all you want about Joe Buck, but Joe Buck's a very polarizing figure. And most people who don't like Joe Buck, I don't know. I just don't get it. He's a different type of dude, but I don't think he's a horrible broadcaster by any means. Overexposed, and when you become overexposed, then people start to take shot at you in this country. That's just what we do. You know, Joe Buck was a superstar on his way up, and then when you get to the top, and like a lot of situations, whether it's in TV or it's sports in general, when you're on your way up, people are all over praising you, and then once you get to the top, people start to berate you. Happens to analysts, or I should say, TV personalities in sports, right and left. I mean, happened to Tony Romo, praised right and left on his way up. He hits the pinnacle and people hate him. I'm not a big fan of Tony Romo either, by the way. I was the early Tony Romo, but now he just doesn't shut up. Troy Aikman is very good, and I still think Phil Simms was the gold standard when it comes to analysts of the most recent era. Now, I grew up with some guys that I thought were really, really good in Bob Trumpy. Bob Trumpy working with Dick Enberg. Merlin Olsen working with Dick Enberg. Lots of good stuff there. So anyway, since we've got so much to talk about, I don't want to waste a second before we get Jim Biringer in here. I don't know. I'll jump back to your guys' questions about Joe Buck here in a second. Good morning, Jim Biringer. We got so much to talk about. I don't want to waste a second. How are you?
What's going on? I'm doing well.
A busy day for you. I mean, I watched an update with you last night after I don't remember which. I guess it was a Lightning game, and you were whispering. So I'm assuming there was somebody sleeping.
Yeah, people asleep. You gotta go indoor voice. As somebody once told me, gotta go indoor voice.
That was more like a sneaky voice. It was very interesting, but you do get those updates out. So thank you for those. And
absolutely, I do what I can.
What a weekend. I mean, look, I talked about it. I know I made a comment on your guys' show. Oh, Jim Biringer, by the way, from fullpresshockey.com and also the Last Word on Hockey on the Mad Radio Network. I watched your guys' show for a bit yesterday, and as I commented, there's nothing better in sports than Game 7 to begin with. And
Depends on the sport, though.
Well, listen, hockey, definitely, I think Game 7s are better than any.
Yeah.
Major League Baseball might be less because we get some stinkers in Major League Baseball, but it's definitely huge in hockey. And gosh, yesterday, 3 of them, 2 today, and all the games yesterday were really, really good games.
Yeah, they were. I mean, no blowouts. I mean, every game yesterday, if you watched every game, you were not disappointed. The Canes and Bruins, the first one at 4:30. Yeah, I mean, Carolina was up 3-1, but Boston cut it close, and they won. But that one was a crazy series because the home team won every game.
Your number one fan says good morning.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. She said that's right. That's it. You got to get in. That's it.
Got to get her in before the rest of them start to monopolize your time. Listen, a couple of things I want to focus on, and we'll talk about anything you need to talk about for sure, but a couple of things I want to focus on that have happened in the last couple of days. The Panthers break like a 25 or 26-year-old drought of winning a playoff series, which is huge. And Toronto collapses again. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. I'm going to start with the back end. I don't know if it was a collapse. I'm going to be honest. It wasn't like last year or the year before. This was different. This Toronto team was different. There was something about this series and this because last year they didn't show the ability to overcome adversity in the series. They were down in this series multiple times. It showed that they could come back.
Mm-hmm.
Braden Point, it's just a bad break in overtime. They deserved a better fate in Game 6. I'm not going to point the officiating in Game 6, but I will say if you're going to call the rule book in the first period, you better call it in overtime because there were some missed calls, especially the Alex Killorn holding of the jersey on Austin Matthews for about good 30 seconds. But the couple phantom high sticks in the third period and the 5, like I said, I don't want to harp on the officiating. It's bad across the playoffs, but
we'll talk about it maybe a little bit later anyway.
But you cannot give a team like Tampa Bay a free game in the Stanley Cup playoffs. You go back to Game 4, the start, it's horrible. The game's over within the first 8 minutes of the first period, and that's all she wrote. And you allow the Tampa Bay Lightning to figure it out. Yes, you win but you had to come back in Game 5 against Tampa. You had to come back in Game 6, and Nick Paul and the champs show why they're the champs, because they know when it matters most. They know how to play defensive hockey. They were missing that third line the whole series. Yeah. Nick Paul, all those guys figured it out. He gets 2 goals. And then Andre Vasilevsky, yes, he doesn't get a shutout, but in the last 6 closeout games, he's 6-0. I mean, you knew Toronto was going to have a big game in Game 7. They just didn't do it. The big boys showed up. But again, a little bit of it's too little, too late. And where do they go from here? As far as the Panthers go, you'll party like it's 1996, because that's the last time they won a playoff series. It was 1996 when they advanced to the Stanley Cup final to play the Colorado Avalanche, and then they got swept. But yeah, this Panthers team, they overcome some adversity. It's going to be a challenge because they got the Stanley Cup champions in the next round, Battle of Florida. I think a lot of people wanted to see that rematch from last year. Let's see what happens. We'll see what happens with this series this year, because Tampa a little bit tired. We'll see what happens going to Florida, coming off emotion. We'll see Carter Verhaeghe, 12 points in that series. He was at one point tied with Connor McDavid for the lead, only 2 points behind McDavid now. I like this Panthers team. They came up with the goods, the comeback cats. In 96, it was the year of the rat. This year, they're the cardiac comeback cats.
Right.
Let's see if they can get away with that against Tampa. You can get away with it against Washington, because Washington gave them the series in Game 4 and in Game 5. As I talked about on my show, if you don't get pucks deep, they're going to transition their offense real good and start going the other way. Is Toronto a player or two away to solidify that team?
I think they're good enough to win right now. It's just a matter of getting over.
I mean, they added Giordano on the back end. They have Spezza. They added these guys, these different guys, these grinders, and they played a much better series. I think it's just, you got to overcome this adversity and get it out of your head and just be like, look, they had to treat Game 6 like it was Game 7. You cannot, if you have home ice advantage. Craig Button has said this so many times, guys who's been there. If you're up in a series, you have to close it out in Game 6, because you don't want to give that team hope.
Especially when it's a defending champion Lightning, who are full of big games like this, big game experience like this, right? So
yeah, exactly. I mean, they know how to close out a series. They know what they need to do. And, it's funny, if you listen to John Cooper throughout the series, it's not like he was taking shots, but he was motivating his guys, but while also just subtly throwing in little zingers towards the Maple Leafs about with Jack Campbell. I thought Jack Campbell had a great series outside, and he played a great Game 7. There's nothing he could have done on any of those goals. He outplayed Andre Vasilevsky for most of that series. He did. I mean, the Maple Leafs made Vasilevsky look human, but when it came time for the Lightning to step up, they did. And now Toronto has to go back to the drawing board. Where do they go from here? Are changes going to be made? Are they going to look to break up the core? I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, you got to let it digest. But, the Maple Leafs said they were right there, and I have to agree with that. They're sick of the feeling. We're not – and Sheldon Keefe said it best. Yes, we got respect in the line. It was different than years past. They're like, we're not in the respect business. We're in the winning business.
That's what sports is about. You got to win eventually, and you can't waste the careers of great players like Austin Matthews, and not that he's not complicit as well, but you've got to start. You got to get over the hump. If they get over the hump, they may be perennial contenders.
I mean, I think if they had gotten past to Tampa, I think they would have had a decent shot to go all the way, because the monkey's off the back. Yeah. But you got to look at things, and everybody's going to point to Tavares, and he had a good Game 5 and Game 6, but again, he went invisible in Game 7. Though he had a goal taken away, so I mean, I shouldn't say that. They called interference on Justin Hall. I mean, it is a penalty, but again, this is something we could talk about. They pick and choose when they want to call the rule book. So again, not a reason why the Maple Leafs lost. Tampa is a better team, but if you look at the officiating across the board, it's just,
Good morning to John Carter. He thinks Toronto just needs a higher compete level. Lightning block shots, won 50-50 pucks. Yeah, well, again, it's desire is part of it. And again, when you're the champions and you know what you need to do to get that victory, as we've already talked about, and I think that's what kind of John's alluding to. Once you've once you've done it, it becomes like muscle memory, and you don't have to think about it. You just do it.
Yeah, I mean, they know how to take the hit and move the puck along and stuff. I think that's something that the Maple Leafs need to learn a little bit more. That's like, you're going to have to take the hit to make the play, and that's the big thing for them. And look, I thought they were physical. I thought they played well, and you know what? Just in the end, they're the champions of the champs for a reason, and they still have a chance. If you look at where the Stanley Cup champions were back to back, this is the round they've lost in the last couple of goal rounds before. The last time a team went this far was Islanders, but the team looking for three-peat, this is the round. So if Florida is going to strike and get to where they're supposed to be, they're going to have to take out the defending champions, and this is where the defending champions have lost. And I don't know if Florida is going to beat Tampa. I don't care if Florida's favored entering the series. Like I said, I don't know how Toronto was favored on the sports books, because I said from the beginning I thought the Lightning were going to win the series. I'm picking the champions until somebody beats them.
Just to touch on a couple of the other games. I mean, the late game last night, really tough loss for Jonathan Quick. I thought he had an amazing game with 39 saves, but he gives up 2 goals, and the Kings have no offense last night. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on this game or any of the other games before we jump in tonight's game 7s? I
think the Kings needed to win in game 6. I think that was their opportunity to close out the series. I think they let Edmonton take it back. They played a great series, but the Kings, they got into the playoffs. I don't think a lot of people expected them to be there. Now they just have to build off of it going forward. Obviously, Dustin Brown, congrats on a great career. Retired after the series. You could clearly see the absence of Drew Doughty definitely hurt this team. Yes, they were able to win some games, especially in overtime, Kempe. But the Oilers, give them credit. They figured out how to grind it out. They figured out what they needed to do. Connor McDavid, 2 points. Big players step up at big moments. He had a goal to ice the game. Mike Smith, 41-year-old Mike Smith, to shut out in the series to close it out. I'm still not sold on that goaltending, but because, the Oilers can have a shot to get to the conference final depending on who they play in Calgary and Dallas. I know everybody wants the Battle of Alberta. I think that would be a heck of a series. But, we'll see what happens there. But it doesn't matter who they run into in the conference final. I don't think they're getting past Colorado or St. Louis because those two teams are just built differently.
Right. And jumping into today's games real quickly, we got the Rangers and Penguins. The Rangers trying to come all the way back from a 3-1 deficit that was of their own making, as much as the Penguins playing well. Do you think it hinges on whether Crosby plays or not? I don't know that it does. I mean, Crosby's been a Rangers killer, but I think the Rangers could win, obviously, at home with Crosby on the ice. And it's doubtful that he'll be at full speed, even if he's there. What are your thoughts on this game? And also the Crosby hit, there's been a little bit of controversy, mostly from Penguins fans. I thought it was a good, clean hockey hit myself, but any thoughts about that hit as well?
It's a hockey play. It's a hockey play. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, he didn't target the head. Trouba actually plays the puck with his stick. Crosby goes off balance and he goes up. I mean, look, a guy like Crosby, he's got concussion history. And I said after the game, speaking with somebody, that it was a concussion. They're like, oh, they didn't even diagnose it yet. I'm like, it's a concussion. The guy didn't come back. And he's probably not going to play the rest of the series, and it's going to change the series. And it's unfortunate. But the Penguins shot themselves in the foot in game 6 because you're up 2-0. You're playing well, and stupid penalties always come back to bite you in the butt.
Yeah.
I said it yesterday. Evan Rodriguez, as much as you hate the fact that Ryan Lindgren cross-checked you in the back into the boards, yes, it was boarding. We get it. But you can't retaliate because retaliatory penalties always get called. Mika Zibanejad finally comes out of witness protection, has 4 points, and the Rangers go on victory. Though, I mean, look, they still had to do it the hard way because the Penguins rallied. But you know what? The issue for Pittsburgh is you can't play without Crosby. You can't play without your number 1 and number 2 goaltender. Look, the goal by Louis Domingue, it was a bad goal. I mean, he's played decently in this series since coming in. It's a great feel-good story. It is. If Tristan Jarry is healthy, he's playing tonight. He has to go in the net tonight because you can't rely on Louis Domingue in Game 7.
Right.
You have to. And, we don't know. Crosby status, but he's probably doubtful for Game 7. I mean, unless by some miracle he's playing and he's feeling good, it was in concussion protocol, and if he plays, how much is he going to play? Is he going to be effective? Yes, that line was killing the Rangers. He was back to his old self. He's still one of the best players in the game. This Penguins team can win without him, but Tristan Jarry has to play if that's the case.
I mean, can he just make an appearance? Can it be like a Willis Reed moment? And can he inspire his team just by showing up and taking the ice, even if it's only for a few minutes tonight, or is it they need him to be at mostly full strength to win this game?
I mean, I was thinking about this yesterday, like when I was listening to stuff. I'm like, if he just suits up and sits on the bench, I mean, that could just be an inspiration to itself. But I know he's going to want to get out there. But it's all about him and his health going forward, because if he takes another one, he could be out for a while or could end his career. So they got to be careful with this, with him. He's an effective player, whether he's on the ice or off the ice. He's more effective on the ice for Pittsburgh. But I'm just not sure he's playing Game 7, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, the goaltending imbalance finally showed up. Well, the Rangers' goaltending hadn't been very good up until Game 6 here. Sorry, I said Game 7, but Game 6,
Yeah,
Igor,
but even in Game 6, Igor didn't play that great. And even in Game 5, he didn't play great. He gave up a lot of rebounds, and Pittsburgh was up 2-0. Like I said, they were dominating that game. And then penalty, bam, and then Biringer again, and then it's 3-2 on another stupid penalty. So, Pittsburgh's had chances to close the series out, and they haven't been able to do it.
He played well in the third period when,
Yes, he did.
He kept them in the game. And if you ever see, I don't know, I haven't seen a lot stranger goals to win a hockey game than that one. I mean, he had to be blinded by the two players in front of him on that long slap shot, right?
I mean, it just went up and over, and they tried to get it out. I think Vasilevsky gave up a similar one closer, but it just went off the shoulder. Yeah, that's just a bad goal. And the series is turned in the favor of the Rangers, and I think they're going to be able to close it out tonight in Madison Square Garden.
Is momentum? So in hockey, again, momentum is a very fickle thing, right? There's an old saying in baseball that momentum is only as good as today's starting pitcher. In hockey, is momentum? You think it's a real thing that will carry the Rangers through tonight?
I think so. I mean, they say momentum doesn't carry game to game, but you look at it, it does, because if you're down in a series and you start coming back, you have the confidence that you can come back. Like look with the Panthers, they were down 2-1 and they were able to tie it and then tie the series down 3-0, able to take the lead. So I mean, they had the belief that they could come back against Washington. And the Rangers have the belief they can come back against Pittsburgh. You know what? They've done it before. Who's to say they can't do it again? And anything can happen in a Game 7. Yes, momentum could be game to game, because as we saw in the Dallas-Calgary series, I thought Calgary's offense, after they got it going in the third period in Game 4 and third period in Game 5, they were going to start to roll. But Jake Ottinger's been the difference in that series. Yeah.
What's your thought on the other Game 7 tonight in the Flames and the Stars?
To me, that's a toss-up. I would take Calgary at home just because, but Jake Ottinger is in the heads of the Calgary Flames right now. I mean, Matthew Tkachuk needs to show up for this team. Johnny Gaudreau's done everything he needs to do in this series. No more question marks about him. You just gotta like what this Flames team is. But Jake Ottinger is the reason Dallas is in this series right now, because they have no business being in the series. Minus 8 goal differential, the worst of the 16 teams in the playoffs, the worst in the Western Conference. Like, they should have no business being in this series right now. No business, because if the Flames offense decided to play, but it's been Jake Ottinger, and he's outperformed Jacob Markstrom the whole way. So, kudos to them. But, I think the Flames can win at home tonight.
In general, you had an article that you posted the other day about the inconsistent goalie interference calls, and we just touched on some of the other inconsistent refereeing. What are your thoughts in general about the goaltender issue? And it's had an effect and an important effect in a lot of these games so far. You talked about the officiating outside of that too in the Maple Leaf series. What are your thoughts in general about the officiating? And I'll put this in there, this little kicker, and I know you're probably your reaction here. I was following some of the fan sites yesterday with some of the comments, and a lot of them feel that there's this, and I'm sure they're Canadian fans, that there's an American bias now, that the officiating wants the American teams to win and get into, advance in the playoffs, which I think is nuts, but I'll let you comment as well.
Look, I mean, I know officiating is a hard job. I get it. It is. I'm one. But and fans can't have it both ways because they complain they don't call enough penalties, they call too many penalties. I get it. You have to find that balance. And scoring is up, power plays are up like it was in the regular season. So they're calling the rule book. But at the time that they call it is horrible because I've watched every game. There's some coincidental minors. I'm like, this guy fell, and then they're calling like I think again. I'll go back to Toronto. I think it was Game 4. Nick Paul gets called. So I think Kasha gets called for a slash. Nick Paul gets called for tripping. Nick Paul falls, and a guy just trips over his head. Wait, what? I mean, he barely touched him on the slash A, and the guy fell into the boards, and Kasha just tripped over his head. B. I mean, like that's not penalties. Like those aren't penalties. These are supposed to be NHL referees. Like they have to give these players some leeway. And, with the whole goaltending thing, I literally broke down the rule book and looked at each one of these scenarios of these. And there were others that I just highlighted the biggest ones. There were others that happened. But if you look at the rule book, it does say incidental contact with the goaltender is not allowable and should not be a goal. Right. And they called incidental contact on the Bruins goal, the DeBrusque goal, when the guy clearly moves the pad out of the way and the goalie has position in the crease. You cannot – the rule states the goaltender has to be able to play his position to the fullest. Well, a lot of these calls – I mean, the one in the Ranger game should have been a goal because the path – there was really no other path you can go. And other calls – if you look at the Colorado Nashville series in Game 3, it's a similar play, but they called it a goal, and you have a former official on TV saying it should be no goal. So, I mean, that's just a bad look for the league. When a guy's reffed 1,900 games in the league and is calling and saying it should be no goal, like nobody knows what it is. As I said last week, it's like pass interference in the NFL. Nobody knows what it is or what a catch was. Like this is the NHL's problem, and they need to figure it out. I've heard former goalies say, and I say, and some guys may take advantage of it, but the goalie has to have the blue paint. Any contact inside the blue paint, whether incidental or not, is no goal. Like they just have to have the blue paint, and nobody wants the stupid in the crease rule, foot in the crease rule again, because if as we've seen, they decided to just take that rule away when it's triple overtime in '99 with Buffalo and Dallas. So they call the rule book when they want to call the rule book. So it's just tough.
Yeah, whatever the rule is, you just have to be consistent with it. I mean, any rule in any sport, if you're not going to be consistent with it, then it's impossible to play the game almost because you don't know what you can do and what you can't do.
Right, exactly. And it's like, oh, yeah, it's overtime. We want to let him play. Yeah, but if a guy's holding the jersey for 30 seconds, it's called holding. Like, that's a penalty. Like, it's legitimately a penalty. Like, they call all this ticky-tack stuff, but when the things are obvious, it's like, oh, yeah, no, it's okay. I'm like, all right, whatever. All right, that's fine, I guess. But here's the thing last night. So in the Game 7s yesterday, so in the Carolina-Boston series, Max Domi scored his first 2 career playoff goals.
Yeah.
In the Tampa Bay-Toronto series, Nick Paul scored his first 2 career playoff goals. In the Edmonton game last night, Cody Ceci scored his 2nd career playoff goal. He hadn't scored one in a while since he was with Ottawa. So think about that.
Yeah, I wonder if you bet on that somewhere. I bet you we got pretty good payout today on all those things happening in one day.
Right? Imagine that.
That's awesome. Let me touch on one other thing. And guys, the whole goalie interference thing, you can read Jim's article on fullpresshockey.com. And I've also posted on the TGI Sports Talk page and read Jim and check out Full Press Hockey. It's a really good site if you're a hockey fan, and Jim's stuff stands out, obviously. One other thing too, Jim, it would appear to me that scoring's up a bit in the playoffs here in this first round. I mean, is this a good thing for hockey, or what's your opinion there?
I personally like it. I like the fact that scoring's up. I mean, yesterday wasn't. I mean, obviously, Game 7 is always going to be a little bit tighter defensively, and we saw that a lot of games went to under. But I like the fact that scoring's up because it puts more eyeballs on the game. Obviously, power plays are up. These guys are just more skilled. They know how to score goals. But when a push comes to shove, the game's going to get defensive. But yeah, these guys know how to score. I mean, we saw offense was up in the regular season. It carried over in the playoffs, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, you look at all these other sports, people like, obviously, depends. Like if it's a good pitching duel, you want to see a good goaltending duel. Obviously, that's something special too. But the casual fan wants to see goals, and guys want to see home runs and and we want to see scores up there. We want to see a lot of crooked numbers because it makes the game more entertaining.
Don't throw home runs at me. You turn me right off. I hate that because I don't like the 3 outcome rule in baseball. Or the 3 outcome effect in baseball. Home runs, walks, and strikeouts. It's not a lot of fun. But I don't think the NHL is going that direction.
No. It's just it's a carryover from the regular season. These guys are just more skilled, and they work on this stuff throughout the year. So I mean, it's gonna happen that the offense was eventually gonna go up in the playoffs.
Yeah. And I guess I can't let you go, and I won't let you go. I won't take up too much more of your time, but let's touch on Barry Trotz getting fired by the Islanders. He'll be out of work about 5 minutes once people start hiring. The Flyers might be a good fit for the Trotz. It's just something.
Winnipeg, Detroit.
Does he want a job though? You think he wants to keep coaching?
If Barry Trotz wants to coach, he'll get a job. If he wants to coach, there's talk he wants to be in management somewhere too. But if he wants to coach again, it's all on Barry Trotz. Look, I disagree with the decision as I commented on your guys' show on Friday.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's the right decision. As I said, as somebody told me once, Lou Lamoriello wants everybody to follow the team thing. No one is above the team except him, because he just does what he wants and he does it whether you like it or not. Now he's
had some success.
Right, but look at his past recent success. His team, team has gone to a Stanley Cup Finals since 2012, and the Devils lucked into it. Like if you looked at everything, Devils should have been eliminated in Game 6. They didn't. They get the Henry goal in Game 7 and go all the way. Flyers beat up the Penguins so much in the first round that they weren't ready. The Devils had their Stanley Cup against the Rangers, and if things, he has not been able to handle the salary cap era because he always had his own internal salary cap. He doesn't like to pay players. And if you think Trotz was the reason why the Islanders struggled, just look at what Lamoriello did to put this team to improve this team. He didn't improve the team that went to back-to-back conference finals. Those were Garth Snow's players. What guys did he bring in? Aging Zdeno Chara that's way past his prime and way past the player he was in Boston, who was getting exposed left and right in the Stanley Cup final in 2019, then again in the bubble, then again in Washington. Zach Parise is a good depth move. Okay, but you signed Kyle Palmieri to a 4-year, $5 million contract for playoff success. He's a goal scorer. He's streaky. I would have paid him 3 at 5. I would have been okay with that. But Billy didn't show up. But you had guys that scored 30 goals. And their offense was top 10. So was their defense. So what was the issue? Oh, guys weren't in the room. I don't like the expression, or I didn't like the term, the guys needed a new voice.
I'll let Carlos make.
They still pass and force players to play out of their skills. Okay, but then how did Anders Lee have 30 goals? How did Brock Nelson have 30 goals? Mm-hmm. How did Matt Barzal everybody's pointing at Matt Barzal for not wanting Trotz there anymore, and certain guys not wanting him there. Ryan Pulock had a great year. Adam Pelech came out of nowhere. Noah Dobson played well. Ilya Sorokin should have been was probably one of the top 5 for Vezina. The Preds went deep, man. Again, the GM has not improved this team.
I'll give you one more to fire you up even more.
Yeah.
That's your last one, Carlos, because we're gonna move on here. Good.
But if
You can't if you can't motivate players, you aren't the third winningest coach in NHL history. I don't think.
Right, and the highest winning percentage in Islanders history since Al Arbor. Al Arbor won Stanley Cups. Look, Lou didn't improve the team. He has to. He talked about, oh, we need a puck moving defenseman. We this. Well, you got rid of Devon Taven. You got rid of Nick Leddy. Oh yeah, the same Nick Leddy that is now in the second round of Stanley Cup playoffs with the St. Louis Blues. They need to improve their offense. They have no goal scoring. They protected an identity line that you could have replaced instead of keeping Jordan Eberle. As I said before, I don't like the fact that, oh, the players needed a new voice. If the players needed a new voice, then you needed to make the move the day the season ended, not a week later.
Yeah.
Because there was a power struggle between, I know Trotz didn't like some of the moves that they brought in, all that stuff. It's on Lou Lamoriello now to make this team better. And if he doesn't and this team goes backwards, it's on him because he's making the same mistakes he made in New Jersey after they went to the Stanley Cup final, thinking the team was just good enough to get to the playoffs and relying on aging veterans. They need to get younger. And if there are some reports out there looking at Babcock. Babcock's the same coach as Trotz. So
that's always one of my points. Anytime you get rid of a coach, a manager, or whatever, if you don't have a better option, why are you firing the guy that you have? If you have a better option, okay, fine. But I don't see where there's a better option than Barry Trotz.
What, Lane Lambert? He may. Yeah. I mean, look, he may go someplace. I mean, the worst part is Lou's playing the Nick Saban game of, oh well, these guys are still under contract. You can't talk to anybody.
Yeah. That's a good point by John Carter here. I mean, this happens too often. You know, the players don't buy in. You keep them around and get rid of the coach. I mean,
right, exactly. Like it's not. Yeah, I mean, if Barzell's really the issue and the one that says that, oh well, I didn't want to play in this system. Well, wait a minute. You're the guy and the thing that went to back-to-back conference finals and played well. Like, wait a minute.
Right.
But you were non-existent this year because of what? Oh, yeah, the talent around you. That's not the coach's fault. That's the general manager's fault.
And in fairness to Carlos, he does comment here the GM has got to go if these moves are not improving the squad. So
and I've said this for a while, and my theory, again, is continued, and I've been backed up by several people I've talked to. Lamoriello was not running the show in Toronto, so I don't care. His title was general manager. It was a committee of Dubas, Shanahan, and Lamoriello. He was a figurehead to get this Maple Leafs team back on the map, and now it's Dubas and Shanahan. So the game has passed Lou by. He deserves criticism, and he deserves praise when he needs it. But the Islanders, you know what? They're in a tough situation because they need to get a better coach because I don't know if there's anybody better out there right now than Trotz.
I can't see it myself. So anyway, Jim, thanks for being with us. I mean, we'll bring you in next week because we'll be well into the second round, I think, when we get in.
Second round starts actually tomorrow. We just don't know the matchups yet. I don't definitely some games Tuesday. I mean, they definitely did say they were going to try to start Monday because, St. Louis and Colorado have already clinched. So I think they're going to try to start that series tomorrow. They're just going to see what the East is. The Rangers are definitely not playing until Tuesday. So you might see Tampa and Florida maybe going tomorrow as well. So we'll see if they figure that out. But definitely St. Louis and Colorado, those two teams are ready to go.
Good stuff. Jim Biringer. Check out Jim's work on fullpresshockey.com and The Last Word on Hockey on Mad Radio Network. Jim, thanks for coming in. Have a great Sunday, and we'll talk to you next week, hopefully.
Have a good one. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks again.
Bye.
Have a great
day.
Good stuff from Jim Biringer, the rink master, as you guys have labeled him. Great stuff. I know I had a couple of comments here. Look at, it always comes down to when it comes. I wanted Aaron Boone out as the Yankees manager, but I had a replacement that I thought was better. I didn't just say, okay, he needs to go. Well, here's my solution and why I think it should be. You can't just fire a guy and then hope for the best. And Alan, I know you had a comment about the Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson comparison. I don't know that that's a great comparison because Jimmy Johnson had just won 2 Super Bowls and Jimmy Johnson had had enough of Jerry Jones as well. So I think that was more of a mutual thing. So it's a little bit of a different comparison, but I get your point. I think there's parallels more with the Knicks and Thibodeau and Leon Rose. Leon Rose won't take any blame for what's going on with the Knicks. So anyway, we'll move on here. Great stuff from Jim Biringer, and thank him for coming on as always. So let's move on to Major League Baseball here. We took a lot of time with NHL, but we have to this time of year. I want to jump into Major League Baseball. I want to take a quick look at some of the power rankings. I mean, we'll look at the standings a little bit if we have to, but the power rankings will get us there. And the ones I'm going to look at are from a few days ago, and I'm going to make some comments and certainly kind of tell you where I think. Now I've lost it. Bear with me a second while I bring it back. All right. So at the top five, I mean, they had the Dodgers and the Yankees pretty close. And listen, the top five, I think I can make a case for most of these teams to be, number one, I suppose, right now. The Dodgers, at the time of this ranking, were 20-9. They're certainly firing on all cylinders. They're the best team in the National League outside of maybe the Mets. I could make an argument the Mets are as good as the Dodgers right now. They're finding ways to win. They're the only team in Major League Baseball that hasn't lost a series yet. As hot as the Yankees are, they have lost a series. Been a while, but that's something to be said. So they've got the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Mets, and the Brewers who are playing really good baseball. And again, one of the most underrated managers in baseball, and Craig Counsell doing a great job. And at the point of this poll, Los Angeles was in there. I would put the Astros, especially right now, the Astros are red hot. I would put the Astros ahead of the Angels. And I think once you go with those top five, I mean, I can make an argument that any of those five could be ranked number one at this point in time. And we'll try to keep up with your comments here. Sorry, we got a couple going backwards. Sorry. Rick Sherlock, we'll see who they get. Crosby, yeah. It's going to be fun tonight, guys, with the Game 7s. So it'll be lots to talk about during the week. Which manager needs to go? Chris Woodward. Well, I understand why you're saying that, but I tried to warn you. Alan, that, your team was not, I don't think, poised to be that good this year. Yes, they made some big moves for Marcus Semien and of course Seager. It's pitching, man. Pitching and defense still wins games. And when John Gray's your number one, you're just not a very good team. And again, I don't know if I can blame Chris Woodward for the team that's being put out on the field. So anyway, we'll talk more about that as we go. Yes, Drew, Astros 9-1 in the last 10, as we just talked about, them being very hot. They're just a good baseball team, guys. They play really solid baseball. Dusty Baker's a steady hand. I know he hasn't won a World Series, but it's a little like Buck. He's a little bit old school, but he still has embraced some of the nuances of the new age of baseball that we all have to live with. But I like the way the Astros approach the game. Pitching, defense, timely hitting. Yeah, they hit some home runs in that bandbox of a ballpark they play in. But they're just a good, fundamentally sound baseball team. I missed something here with the Mets players playing up to their skill level. Well, Carlos, I will turn your argument around on you. It's all in this case, because I know you don't like Buck. You're telling me the manager has nothing to do with this, but in the Trot situation, he had everything to do with them not playing up to their standard. I know I'm putting words in your mouth, so you can certainly feel free to comment there. I apologize for putting words in your mouth, but that's what it appears to me to be the situation. As I said, Drew's, as I just said, manager can only be as good as what he's got to work with. Yes, some great managers have been able to win with lesser talent, but when you have a pitching staff, especially the way the game is played today, like the Rangers have, you're in trouble. Telling you, well, Carlos, I don't know. You can bash the Astros all you want, but this is a really good baseball team. And if you're going to tell me they only won, and I'll get on this topic too right now. Brian Cashman needs to shut up about the cheating. First of all, and again, cheating is a harsh word, but I guess it is what it is. But again, the Astros do what every team tries to do. They did it better until they got caught. But let's remember something. When Brian Cashman says they would have won the World Series in 2017 if the Astros hadn't been cheating, how does he know that? They still had to go to the World Series and beat the Dodgers. And by the way, in the deciding game of that series, the Yankees didn't score any runs. So stealing signs, which got the Astros 2 runs, if you want to take it to that extreme, the Yankees didn't score any, and it doesn't help you when you're pitching to know the signs. Guys aren't getting guys on base. It's got nothing to do with the way the team hits. So Brian Cashman, do me a favor, shut up and worry about getting your team over the hump. God, it pisses me off. Excuse me. It does. It just does. Good morning, Kenny Gifford. You got in just in time to hear me rant. Good to have you here from the mountain. They did get who got spanked by the Nats last night? I'm not really sure who played the Nats last night. Sorry. I'm assuming Texas we may be still talking about. I don't know. Oh, the Astros. Sorry. They did. So what? They're still 9-1 their last 10. I mean, that's a good team. Give them credit. They moved on from yeah, they did. And everybody should move on from it. It's nonsense. Except that Chavez needs to pick it up. Buck is doing well. Good. Thank you, Carlos, for giving Buck some credit. I appreciate that. John Carter. Welcome in, John Carter, by the way, one of our newer Sunday participants. Good to have you with us again. The talk up in Canada is that Charlie Montoya is in trouble if the Blue Jays don't turn it around quickly. Expectations are very high this year. Yeah, the expectations for me we're going to win that division. I had to do a mea culpa myself. On the Yankees, because I had the Yankees pick finish 3rd or 4th here, depending on whether they beat the Rays out or not. Now, let's be fair. The Blue Jays, they've been on a bad run recently, and the Yankees' tear has made it look worse as they've fallen, 6.5 games behind the Yankees. And this is a case where they do have the players, right? The pitching has not been good up there, though, from what I've seen, especially in games against the Yankees. And the Yankees and Blue Jays, by the way, may be coming up. This may be the new hot rivalry in the East. We'll see what happens. But yes, the Blue Jays should be better than what they are. And I had them pick to win this division, but you have to win games. On paper, everybody looks, well, not everybody. Sorry, Alan. Not everybody looks good on paper. Good teams look better on paper, though. Maturity from McNeil. Yes, maturity from McNeil. Diaz is focused. Diaz is still. Listen, if I was going to be a Met fan, I was going to worry about one thing. I'd be worried about my bullpen. And I think that's what they should be looking to shore up here when the trade deadline comes around. Drew, no question the Jays are not playing up to their potential. John Carter. Not sure that's Montoya's fault. Again, there is something to the manager. Managers take falls when teams don't meet expectations, right or wrong. If they're not motivating a team the right way. And it's not just about bad decisions either, in my mind anyway, Drew. The reason that I have had a problem with Aaron Boone through the years has nothing to do necessarily bad decisions, although he does tend to burn out his bullpen too early in the season. But it's more about holding guys accountable and setting a tone for them and expectations. So you can hold a manager accountable for more than just bad decisions. And you're right. Most managers will get held accountable at the end of the day. Just like, listen, GMs aren't going to blame themselves. It doesn't happen until somebody blames them above them. They're going to blame the guy behind them because crap flows downhill, and it always has. Carlos, expectations should be high in Toronto with that squad, as I just said. I think they need some middle relief. Again, it's very early. Let's remember, the team's still over 500. They were playing fairly well until recently. And again, the Yankees' hot streak makes it look worse than what it is. And think about this, John Carter and Blue Jays fans. You're not the Red Sox. I picked the Red Sox to finish last year. I just was a year behind, apparently. Well, that's right. And you can also thank God you're not the Reds, who are on a pace to lose 120 games. And that's with a 6-4 in their last 10. This team this is one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball history. It rivals the Mets in six. Well, Mets were obviously the worst team ever then. It rivals the Detroit team in I want to say it was the early 2000s that, chased the Mets record. But this is a bad baseball team and badly mismanaged, by the way. Best move for the Mets made was moving Familia. Good point. Phillies won 4 in a row despite the usual pitching issues and defensive issues. This team is not good. And I will say again, it's probably a good thing that they won. They won 4 in a row to get to 17-17. Because I think Joe Girardi's job is in trouble. And again, I'd have to look around. I said before, I don't want to fire guys without a better person in play. But I think there are some guys out there that might succeed here. And the problem with Girardi, and I watched him for a long time in New York, and I had a big problem with him there, is he's wound tight and his teams play tight. And when I watch the Phillies, that's what I see. Joe Girardi I think Joe Girardi would be better with a younger team. He did very well with the Marlins with very little talent. And he did well with the Yankees, but look at, he won 1 World Series at the end of the day. Remember also 2 of the last 3 World Series winners entered May under 500, the Nationals and the Brewers. That's a great point. Nationals were under 500, I think, well into June, if I'm not mistaken, Alan. So that's a good point. The Braves last year, you get to the playoffs and you get hot. And with the expanded playoffs, which I hate, teams are have more ability to right the ship and in time to make the playoffs, and then it's just get hot. Well, I can say your record, I bashed this guy earlier on the Mac and Jack show, but as Bill Parcells, the fat bastard, used to say, you are what your record says you are. And the record says Cincinnati is a horrendous team. And the talent that they have left there, Drew, will probably get traded at midseason because their management has not done a good job here. They have not done a good job. That's just opinions are like, everybody's got one. We're going to carry the baseball topics with comments. That's awesome. I'm okay with that. We do want to get into the NFL schedule probably before we get Mark Mancini in at 10:30, but I do want to talk about baseball, and it's in full bloom, and it's our national pastime still. Sorry, NFL fans. Anyway, Carlos, Drew, Philly needs to just not worry about media and keep slamming runs. Yeah, well, again, this is a team, by the way, so they're 500, but I'll bet you anything, unless this has changed in the last couple of days, it has. So they've outscored teams by a bunch of runs in this hot streak they've been on, because they were a minus run differential when I looked at this earlier in the week, or maybe it was last Sunday. But you still win championships. I'm sorry. Even though the game has changed, when you break it down, most of the champions that win have pitching, defense, and some timely hitting. That's what the Braves did last year. That's what the Astros have done. The Dodgers had pitching to go along with great offenses. And I'm not saying these teams didn't play any offense, by the way. You still win with pitching and defense. Yankees are a great example. Yankees are not going to cover off the baseball. You know why the Yankees are 24-9? Defense. They went from being one of the worst defensive teams in baseball last year to one of the best right now. Defense and pitching still matter. Defense matters. Well, whatever, then fix it. Carlo. I'm telling you, they won't win. They can focus any way they want. They will not win the way this team is constituted. That's what I'm telling you. I understand that's how they have to focus on winning games. But when you want to win championships, you better put a much better defensive team together and a much better pitching staff together than this one. Just like the old Rangers. Try to slug your opponents. How'd that work out, by the way? I don't remember the Rangers ever making it past the first round of the playoffs if they made the playoffs. 19-31 at the end of May. I guess we're talking about the Nationals, right? Braves had like 5 different players help that squad, and I'm not sure if another team can do that as well. I'm not sure I'm following that. Carlos, you can follow that up. Baseball's different than any other sport, and it's not a rah-rah type of team. Every individual needs to excel at their position and their job, by the way. A manager does more than just put them in and watch them play. There's still some strategy in baseball. They're still instilling a culture. That's what Puck has done with the Mets, guys. And if we're not seeing it, we're really not paying attention. Those guys didn't just change their approach to the game because they decided to change their approach to the game. They had somebody in there insisting that they hold themselves accountable, and he gives each. And by the way, as I said over and over again, these guys have watched Buck and been learning from Buck, and they're asking questions, and they want to know what to do. It put them in the right spot and make the right moves. I mean, you got to make moves. Managing pitching staffs is probably the most important thing managers do today, and most of them do it horribly. Well, they've been under terrible. Again, that's part of what makes you a terrible team is you got a terrible organization, management. I mean, the management basically told the fans, if you won't come out and watch this terrible team, don't be surprised if we look to move it. Come on. Put something on the field for the fans to go watch. Don't tear it apart and trade your best players away or let them walk away. Carlos is very resilient. It's a broken clock, but I keep ticking and call them out when everybody's wrong now and again, Carlos, and everybody's right now and again. I was thinking about the Rangers teams before that, actually, Alan. So very good catch there. I was actually referring to the teams from the 2000s. The teams with Juan Gonzalez and Rafael Palmeiro and A-Rod and whatever other bat you want to mention. So good point. They did go to back-to-back World Series. And by the way, the fact that Washington did not, their manager in those 2 years did not get another chance to manage is a crime. That guy did a great job there. I believe he's with the Braves now, the third base coach, if I'm not mistaken. Lost to the Cardinals and the Giants, right? That was a good team. Well managed, well run, well put together. Just didn't get over the top. NL Central has the Pirates in third, mainly because the Cubs and Reds are as bad as expected. It's a good point, and I'm sure that that Mark Mancini will come on and speak about the Pirates. Listen, they're 5 games under 500. So listen, I do think they're doing the right things in Pittsburgh and signing some of the young players. But that's a division, except for the top, that's there for the taking. I was, referring to, oops, can't find my mouse, it's the wrong one. Juan Gonzalez's team is the ones I was referring to, yeah. Yeah, back in in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, whatever. I mean, they were under Johnny Oates. They were in the playoffs year after year and lost the Yankees in the first round, it seemed like every year. Again, that's an exaggeration, I understand. But they just couldn't get by. He did get his ring with the Braves. And again, I think it's criminal that he has not gotten another chance. I know there were some issues, off the field with Washington. It was rumored, and I don't even know if it's rumored. I think he's come clean about some of his issues. But It certainly didn't seem to affect his managing in those years, and I think the guy deserves a second chance. I don't know that he's going to get it now. It's many years have gone by, almost 10 years, 9 years, whatever, since he's had a job. Definitely deserves another job. Very good. Very, very true. Have to love the entire NL West being above 500. Yeah, very good point. I mean, the Rockies are starting to fade as we thought they would, but they're still a game over. The Diamondbacks have been a big surprise. They've won 7 of their last 10, and they're 2 games over 500. They've been a huge surprise. And the Giants have kind of picked up where they left off. I think their record is very close to where it was at this point last year when they won well over 100 games. After having, by the way, a pretty decent swoon there for a bit when they had some injuries and some COVID issues here a couple of weeks ago, but they've righted the ship, and they're only a half a game behind the Padres and the Dodgers. And the Padres have surprised me a little bit, playing as well as they have without Fernando Tatis Jr. and some of the other issues they have going on there. And they just signed Robinson Cano, so that'll probably put them over the top. You need another aging left-handed bat who really hasn't done anything without steroids in the last 5 years. The NL Central teams combined, the best players and could beat the Dodgers. No. Listen, the Brewers are a good enough team to do it on their own, I think. I picked the Brewers to win the World Series this year. So, listen, some of the teams that I have picked. Don't have my stuff right in front of me today. I have had it. I picked the Twins to make the playoffs. They're doing very well. I had the Angels making the playoffs. They're doing very well. I had the Brewers winning the World Series. So, listen, early going, I'm happy. In October, I'll probably be pissed. But we'll see what happens. Craig Counsell doesn't get enough due. Let me go back to the power ratings real quick and see if we want to cover anything else there. 6 through 10, again, they had the Astros 6, so I had them 5. The Padres, the Giants, the Blue Jays, and Tampa Bay, no argument with any of those. Again, you can put them pretty much in any ranking you want. I might move the Twins in that top 10. That would cause me to have to drop somebody out. If I did, it would probably be the Blue Jays at this point. Then you've got the at 12 through 15, you've got the Cardinals, the Braves, the White Sox, and the Guardians. You know what? All of these teams pretty much from 12 to at least 20. Now the Marlins are starting to fade. The Diamondbacks will probably fall backwards. The Rockies will probably fall backwards. I don't see these teams staying in there. I can see the Mariners creeping up if they could really get better. I don't see the Phillies staying, in that top 15. Now, teams outside of the top 20 that may move up, the Red Sox all the way down to 21. Maybe the most surprising things I've seen this year so far is not the Yankees start, but the fact that they're 11 games ahead of the Red Sox here on May 15th. Amazing. The Rangers in the 20s, I don't see them moving up. The Athletics have probably hit their high water mark at 23. The Cubs probably about where they belong at 25, along with the Nationals, the Pirates, the Orioles. The Tigers are very surprising. You want to talk about disappointing teams. This was a chic pick to do much better this year and make the playoffs. And AJ Hinch is liable to be feeling some pressure here. This team is 9-22, not a whole lot better than the awful Reds we just talked about. And this is a better team than what the Reds are putting on the field night after night. You got the Royals, who are picked to do better at 29, and of course, the Cincinnati Reds at 30. Not very good. Not a very good showing there. I wanted to get into the top rookies. Here's some of the top rookies. I'll just throw this out there quickly, and then we'll get into we'll probably talk more about the NFL schedule maybe when Mark Mancini comes in. I do want to get into it. The top rookies I've seen this year, well, I haven't seen them all play, I'll be very honest, but, following the box scores and looking at some other information, here's the guys that I see that have played very well. Jeremy Pena for the Astros has played a great shortstop, replacing a great shortstop in Carlos Correa, which is certainly no easy task, especially for a rookie. but I think he's played well both on both sides of the baseball. He's hit the ball fairly well, and he's making all the plays that he needs to make. And he does, by all accounts, he looks like a guy who's going to have a chance to contend for a Gold Glove. So I think, and he's been an important part of the Astros' resurgence here. So I like the way he's played. Stephen Kwan, he who had some of the issues with the Yankee fans here a while back, has done very well for the Guardians. He may be a 300 hitter, not much power, but he is a guy that I think will probably be a consistent Major League Baseball player, maybe not a full-time star, let's say, but I think he is somebody who will be around for quite a while and has certainly played well early in the season. Suzuki from the Cubs obviously has played well. Last year he hit 38 homers and 317 in Japan, which is different than major leagues, we know. But he's played pretty well. He's done a good job of putting the ball in play. I think he's going to be, I think Suzuki's got a chance to be, a player in the Hideki Matsui mold. I don't think he's going to be a Hall of Famer. I don't think he's going to be maybe one of the top 10 players in baseball, but he's going to be a very consistent and clutch player, I think, possibly. Joe Ryan, Pittsburgh pitcher for Minnesota, another guy who's stepped it up here after making 5 September starts. Now he's 3-1 with a 1.63 ERA, who really contributed to the Twins' success here early on. Mackenzie Gore for the San Diego Padres, another pitcher who has come back after being a decent prospect and then kind of disappearing in the Padres organization. He's pitched well here early in the season, and hitters hitting just 175 off of him. And he's helped that Padre team, as I said, get off to a bit of a surprising start. And I'll come back to your comments here as soon as I go through my top 10 here quickly. Julio Rodriguez from the Mariners. He was in some rankings the number 3 prospect in baseball heading into the season. And he got off to a bit of a slow start, but now he's picked it up. And he's even been hitting up in the lineup for the Mariners recently. So I think this is a guy who, projects well long-term for the Mariners. And this is going to be a team on the rise. They're off to a bit of a slow start, and this may not be quite their year, but this is a team that may get it together here before the season's out. Who are the other guys I like? These other guys, they're the guys that stand out to me. Bobby Witt, little bit of a disappointment maybe, but, I do think he's still, probably one of the top 10 prospects, at least in baseball. That's probably these other guys I don't really want to get into. Those are the guys that I really think have played the best of the rookies so far. I did have the Braves last year to win the World Series. Thank you, Rick. So I guess at the end of the day, that's really all that matters. Even if their pick was wrong. Lots of talk about Juan Soto getting traded at the deadline. I think it'd be a mistake for the Nationals to do that. I'd have to look at his contract situation. Great young talent, man. It would have to take a haul for me to move Juan Soto off that team. He's young enough where I can build my team around him. So I don't know that I see that. Yeah, Drew, I think, was high in the Tigers, as we talked about. That's been probably one of the biggest disappointments, I would say, of this early going. Outside of the Red Sox would also qualify for that honor. League catching up with Quan, and it often will with young players, obviously, right? Second time, third time around, they start to catch up. But good players now, then they figure it out. So I think he's the type of player who'll be around for a while. Pesky kind of player. Again, not an all-star, maybe not a Hall of Famer, certainly, but I think he'll be a good player. Think Brett Gardner in his prime. Oh, excuse me. Juan Yepes with the Cardinals has been a good early season rookie. I'll give you that one. Okay, time. Okay, time. Okay. Oh boy. I got a feeling I know what's been going on up there on the mountain. Oh my gosh. What else is going on in the world of baseball today? Let's talk a little bit. Let's see what else we've had. Some other news. I haven't really looked. Ohtani racks up an important number. He gets his 100th home run very quickly. I think his third year, right? The Astros acquire utility man Dubon from the Giants. A source says that Trevor Bauer's hearing with Major League Baseball will begin on May 23rd. Bad news for the Braves as Kuna is banged up again. He's got an MRI. Has come back negative, but he's day to day. The Mets lose Brian McCann, or not Brian McCann. It's a different player. James McCann for about 6 weeks with a broken bone in his wrist. The kid they brought up has been playing pretty good this week, though, right, Drew? And let's see. Some other guys. A couple other things. Nolan Ariendo has found a fountain of youth, it seems, in St. Louis. He's been playing very well. The team's, I don't know, they're a couple games over 500, but I think they played pretty well. Other than that, I don't have a lot. Nice story about Gabe Kapler on ESPN this week. A guy who I think was not going to make it as a manager, to be honest with you. He's very unconventional and an interesting guy, and it's a great read if you get a chance to take a look at it. Apparently, Carlos likes the Angels and Hammett. Yeah, Mizaki hit a solo homer yesterday, which was a game. I think it was the game decider yesterday. Arenado, what'd I say? First time today. Might be a record. I made it to 10-17 without mispronouncing a name. Maybe. You're going to see the Mets finish the Mariners series off. Well, that sounds like good. I hope it doesn't rain, Carlos. I know we're going to get some rain up here, so hopefully you'll be good down there. Have fun for sure. Let's jump, because that's all I got really for Major League Baseball right now. Let's jump to the NFL. And I want to talk a little. That's not it. What are the schedule highlights you guys see for the NFL? I'll give you a couple of things that I see if I can get to my DM. Where I had it open here. Hottest tickets. I can tell you the hottest tickets this year so far, as far as price-wise goes, are the Broncos at the Seahawks here in Game 1, Buccaneers at the Cowboys in Game 1, Cowboys at Green Bay in Week 10, Packers at Tampa Bay in Week 3, San Francisco at the Raiders in Week 17. Those are the highest-priced tickets so far for the NFL in the upcoming games. Moving on. I got an article here somewhere I want to look at. Some of the top storylines. Tom Brady and Dak Prescott will duke it out in Week 1 for the second straight season. This time Tampa Bay will travel to Dallas. The Raiders play at the Chargers in a rematch of an unforgettable. They had a great Week 18 showdown last year. That West is going to be tough. And don't count the Chiefs out. People are down on the Chiefs. But I'm telling you what, the Chiefs made some great offseason moves. And they've got an early season matchup with the Cardinals and Kyler Murray. The Browns will play the Panthers, which could be an interesting game if, in fact, Baker Mayfield finds his way to Carolina here at some point. The Bills have the best differential in the NFL at plus 13. I'm sorry, minus 13. What is that? At a plus minus 13. The Bills will have 6 days of rest. Oh, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm sorry. Brady's going to face several marquee quarterbacks in his season this year. He's got Prescott, Aaron Rodgers, Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Stafford, Deshaun Watson, assuming he doesn't get suspended for his career, Joe Burrow, and Murray. Some great matchups for Tom Brady to look forward to this year. The bye weeks are from week 16 to 14. Interesting. It looks like the Saints, Vikings, Packers, Giants, and Jaguars are each not taking a bye following their London game. Same for the Cardinals and 49ers after their Monday night game in Mexico City. That's an interesting, usually the NFL will have the bye week scheduled when those teams come home from those games. We've got some interesting reunion games. Wilson again at Seattle in week 1. The reception there will be interesting. I'll get to you guys' comments here in just a minute. Steelers assistant coach Brian Flores versus the Patriots in week 2 and at the Dolphins in week 7. Texas coach Lovie Smith is at the Bears in week 3. Carson Wentz goes against the Eagles in week 3. Jaguars coach Doug Peterson. And by the way, I wanted to tell you guys, here's the top 5. Let's see. Here's the top 5. You guys want to make any comments here? Top 5 NFL rags to riches chances in 2022. Teams to make a big jump who have struggled mightily in the last season potentially will do much better this year. I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs, but significant improvement over last year. So Jaguars coach, as I said, Doug Peterson, going to the Eagles in week 4. Patriots assistant coach Matt Patricia at the Lions in week 5. Good chance Matt Patricia will be calling the defensive signals for the Patriots this year. Cowboys coach Mike McCarthy will be at the Packers in week 10. A.J. Brown, new Eagles receiver, returns to Tennessee in week 13. Dolphins coach Mike McDaniel at the 49ers in week 13. And Deshaun Watson, assuming he's playing, at the Texans in week 13. And, of course, Josh McDaniel, new Raiders head coach, versus the Patriots in week 15. We talked about this before. I think the NFL is holding a full slate of games on Christmas Day with the Packers and Dolphins playing at 1 o'clock, the Broncos and Rams playing at 4:30, and the Buccaneers and Cardinals at 8:30. So that'll be very interesting. There'll be 11 games on Christmas Eve that day as well. And the Lions are the only team without a primetime game this year. They have 15 games scheduled for 1 o'clock on Sunday. You can tell where your team is when you have that many 1 o'clock games scheduled. All right, I'll stop talking for a bit, get to some of your comments here. How come I don't have a banner up? All right, comments before we get to Mark Mancini coming in. Okay, where are we? Want to go? I don't know where. I'll be in the Jim Beam Club if it rains. There you go. That's a good place to be. But can they play the game if it rains is the thing. Kenny's questions are spread out over several texts or messages, if you haven't noticed, or comments. You want to go to a Buffalo Patriot game? Where you want? I do too. Problem is, tickets are freaking $450 a piece. Let's take a party bus. Carlos can come along as long as he sits in the back. I'm assuming that means. I don't know what that means. Vikings versus Packers week 1. Smith off the edge with Hunter to do some damage to Rodgers. Vikings are going to be a very interesting team this year. That whole Central, I think, Central. NFC North, which the Patriots play all of those teams this year, by the way. So we'll see your Packers this year, Kenny, and your Vikings, Rick. So I think it's going to be a very interesting division. The Packers, I think, will come back to the pack. The Vikings might have their best chance to unseat the Packers this year before the Bears and Lions start to make some ground up at some point. Prescott sucks, so Kenny is very consistent in that. Prescott, look at he's a good quarterback. He has not found a way to win in the playoffs. We understand that. And it's going to be a matter of, at some point you have to learn to win in the playoffs. Almost spilled my coffee all over the place here. At least 8 of them. I don't know what that is. Maybe Jim Beam's. Reddy will falter this year. Remember Y.A. Tittle. Brady? Kenny? Can you please get your wife and maybe you can dictate to her what you're trying to say? I'm going to assume you mean Tom Brady. I do remember the pictures of Y.A. Tittle sitting on the ground with his helmet off and his head bleeding. Game's different today. Tom Brady's conditioned a whole lot differently than Y.A. Tittle. And will the wheels come off Tom Brady at some point? Yes. The wheels were not close to coming off Tom Brady. In fact, when we last saw Tom Brady, he was leading his team back from a 24-point deficit, I believe it was, in the NFC Championship game. Hopefully the Vikings break his big toe this year. Kenny hates his quarterbacks. I'm not sure. Tell me who you like at the quarterback position, Kenny. Carlos will go to a Pats Bills game with us, guys, as long as I don't sit on the tires or under them. Well, I think you spend enough time under the bus now, Carlos, with this group. So a couple other points in. We'll talk more about the schedule in a little bit with Mark Mancini. A couple other points I wanted to bring up. Jarvis Landry signs with the Saints. Down year for Landry last year. He's a good pickup for the Saints. Again, I'm just not. I know Jameis Winston was playing well when he got hurt last year. I think he was 14 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. But until Jameis Winston gets a team to the playoffs and actually wins a playoff game, I'm going to tell you they don't have a quarterback. I can't, in good faith, and I know Alan disagrees with me on this point. He thinks Jameis Winston is good enough. I don't. I just think and the Saints have done a good job of retooling this team and bringing in Landry, and looks like Michael Thomas will be back after it looked like he wasn't going to be. So possibly the Saints team will be able to compete, behind the Buccaneers in what looks like a much weaker NFC South. The Falcons and the Carolina Panthers won't be any good. Kenny, yes. Is it further to Jersey than Mass? No, it's not. For you or for us? About the same. I can probably get to the Meadowlands in about 3 hours from where I am. And it's probably 3 hours to Foxborough. The other guys have a little bit longer ride. I'm not going to the Meadowlands to watch the Jets and Patriots. I have done that. I will not do it again because it just was not pretty. Oh God, what other news is going on in the NFL? Hold on, let's see what else we got. See if I missed some other important stuff. What do you guys got? Kenny's quarterbacks he likes. Stafford, Mahomes, Herbert, and others. Brady's day is gone. I don't know. I mean, did I miss something last year? Tom Brady at 45 years old playing as well as almost any quarterback in the game. Rodgers will, we all know what we think about Rodgers. I love your pick. I mean, I'm not a huge Stafford fan. He won the Super Bowl last year, and I give him credit for that. Love Mahomes. I love Herbert. But don't count Tom Brady out yet. Yeah, I know. This lawsuit's not going anywhere. I know that there was some talk. I read an article that said that they may have to be changing their name to New Jersey, but we'll see. Looks like we have Mark Mancini. Let's bring him in. Good morning, Mark Mancini.
Hey, my brother, man, the show that's sweeping the country. Prayers to those people in Buffalo, man.
Oh, awful story. And
oh my God, what's going on with the world, man?
We've been talking about the Bills, and I haven't even wanted to go there.
How far are you from there?
Oh, it's about 5 hours, 4.5 hours maybe, but it's quite a ways. But when you see something like this happen, it doesn't feel like it's that far away, right? When it feels like right around the corner.
Well, we were talking about it on the one show about the Deer District, and they got, those fans got to start losing tickets, lifetime bans. If you're coming into guns, you got to have security checking these guys to get into these things. I think this whole thing with fights in the stands in New York and San Diego, completely lifetime bans, not season bans, lifetime bans.
Agreed. And that's what happened to the guy who was harassing Chris Paul's family in the Dallas Mavericks series. He was banned for life from the stadium and any Mavs games. And, I don't know, maybe the league has got to step it up a little bit here too. But
they're chasing the money, so that's the problem there. That seems to be the problem. But man, the Game 7s today, we got 3 of them. And I'm involved in 2 of them with my Bucks and Penguins.
We've got the that's right. I forgot about the Bucks. Well,
and then you and I get on in Pittsburgh for the home opener of the Steelers, the Patriots and Steelers in Pittsburgh.
We got some interesting stuff to talk about. Let's start since you brought up the Game 7s. Let's talk a little bit about that. We'll start with the Penguins and the Rangers. It's been a very odd series. I mean, it started off with a controversial goalie interference call in overtime in Game 1. It continued with the Rangers just getting some horrible goaltending from Igor. Igor, who I'll never say his name. That's why I only say him Igor. Who's up for? I mean, this guy's up for the best goalie trophy, for the Hart Trophy. He's up for everything, but he's playing like he's never played hockey before in the series until the third period the other night, and he played great. We had Sidney Crosby go down. I think it's been an interesting series, and I think momentum is going to carry the Rangers through tonight, especially if Sidney Crosby cannot take the ice.
Well, first of all, we got a third-string car wash goalie. Our second goalie quit on us. He pulled a Michel Dion walking off the ice with a so-called injury. I don't have no problem if your leg ain't broken and your arm ain't broken, stay in net. You went through 2-3 periods of this thing with that triple overtime, and then you decide to pull out, throw the guy in. He's out there washing cars in Madison Square Garden. You got to get him in the net. Somehow we win that game. And this is the problem. I mean, Ned Crosby was out the last game. Hopefully he can play today. We've been at a disadvantage from the start. The Rangers have had all the momentum in this series to put us away. They haven't. I still think Pittsburgh will find a way. They're resilient enough to beat them tonight in New York. I really do.
The momentum didn't get started until the last 2 games, which they won. They blew all the momentum. They were down 3-1.
Yeah, you got a 2-0 lead in Game 6 in Pittsburgh. You got to put it away, and that was a rough night for me, man. Penguins lost, Pirates lost, Bucks lost. Everything seemed to fall in threes. But yeah, you're right.
And the Penguins made some horrible penalties in that game that they had the Rangers on the ropes in that game, and they just let them back in the game in the second period.
Yep, and now. Pittsburgh trying to, get past this series and get Carolina. I'll tell you the interesting series, and I kind of figured Florida would knock out the Capitals, but the Capitals were resilient enough to hang in there and give the Panthers all they can ask for. But that's going to be an interesting series moving forward, too, with the Panthers. So the hockey's looking good. The Kings blew it out here, had a 3-2 series lead, lose the last 2 to Edmonton, and now they're home for the summer.
Great effort from their goalie last night with 39 saves, but they couldn't score any goals. So, they get shut out 2-0 in the final. Talking about the Panthers, we had Jim Biringer on, obviously, at the top.
Oh, great guy.
As we will throughout the hockey, Stanley Cup hockey playoffs. The Panthers break a 26-year drought for winning a playoff series. So that's a huge monkey off their back as well.
Well, that must have had to go back to when they wore the old uniforms with the Panther coming at you when they threw the rats on the ice and Van Beesbrook was in gold.
Exactly. I think I got a Pittsburgh comment here. Hold on a second. I got a couple. Hold on. Let me go back here.
I'll tell you one thing.
Go ahead.
Huh?
Go ahead.
I'll tell you, the Dodger fans, man, I don't see them, celebrating. They're not beating up on Arizona and Colorado. The Phillies have just broke the bats out of here, man. 29 runs in 3 games with another game today. I mean, God, this is like murderers row with the Phillies.
It's interesting. And the Phillies are playing better, but look at that defense and that pitching is just not going to get it done.
The Dodgers have been exposed. I mean, look at this. They swept Chicago. They lost 2 out of 3 to my Pirates, and the Pirates got the albatross off their neck, finally beating them after losing 16 straight to them. Mm-hmm. But now they lose 3 to the Phillies. They've lost, 5 out of 6 to the Pennsylvania teams. I think you go back to the schedule makers and tell them to get these 2 Philadelphia and Pittsburgh teams off our schedule.
Listen, talk about the Phillies. We do want to say, and I should have said this during my baseball segment, I usually try to give little condolences, but we want to say give our condolences to the family of David West, former Met and Philly.
Oh, yeah.
Died. And it's very interesting. Carlos brings up, and I doubt there's any tie to playing for the Phillies, but that's 6 former Phillies that have gotten brain cancer as a cause of death. That's a sad stat.
Yeah, you look at him, and when it first came out, I was trying to think about it, and I'm saying to myself, David West, big guy, pitcher for the Phillies, and you're right, the Mets, and 57, it hits home. I mean, I'm 60.
Yeah.
Feeling like 35, but man, it hits home. We lost Bobblinier, another mainstay in the NBA, and Bill Cartwright was on one of the shows this past week, and man, oh man, 3-time world champ of the Chicago Bulls, and talking about Bobblinier, man, these things kind of really hit you with in the face with the reality, man. I mean, they're not much older than you or not much younger than you, and you look at it in a whole different light.
Yeah, it does make you wonder what the hell's going on, for crying out loud. Let's back up a second. We were talking about Game 7s. Let's talk about the Bucks and Celtics since you brought it up. I love Game 7s in sport. I think it's the best thing in sports is any series can get to Game 7, and we've had 3 of them yesterday in hockey, 2 today. We got 2 Game 7s in basketball. I like the Bucks to repeat myself, but they blew a golden opportunity in Game 6 at home. Now a very tough trip back to Boston to try to win Game 7 today.
Well, I think they win it today. I think Tatum. Years ago I had a nice opportunity to interview that kid. And boy, he's got his act together. Jason Tatum, what a mainstay coming out in that draft, and unbelievable, and carrying them with 46 points the other night. But I think Milwaukee finds a way to win this game, and then they'll play a Miami Heat team like that's year in and year out are there. I mean, Pat Riley running that organization with the owner Mickey Aronson. I mean, that's going to be a series. I think Phoenix gets past Dallas, and that'll show up the Warriors in Phoenix, and then I'm going to stick with what I said in the beginning of the playoffs. I think it's going to be the Warriors and Bucks. But what the hell is Dylan Brooks coming out and saying to the Warriors that we're coming after you? Dude, you went home, man. You're done. We'll see you next year.
Right. It's not a time. You just be quiet, and go home and say that maybe before the season starts next year, right? What are your thoughts on Giannis? What are your thoughts on Giannis saying he wants to take a year off, potentially?
Well, Giannis can do it. Ben Simmons took a year off.
That's a little different circumstance, though.
But Giannis, there's a guy that's a class act. He stayed in a small market like Milwaukee, and the Bucks. Imagine if they can get another championship there. That's back to back. We saw Giannis get the back-to-back MVPs at one time. So, I mean, I like the way the Bucks are built. I think they're built for the long haul. And, with the real guy that's been stepping up there and not many people thought was Grayson Allen. I think Grayson Allen's been a big plus for him. Bobby Portis, And I just think they find a way to beat the Celtics today in Beantown.
Interesting. Giannis is, Greek Freak is a great label for him because he does it all. And one of the reasons I like the Bucks, and I didn't see a lot of it the other night, but they do play some defense, and they do play some team ball. Although I thought Giannis tried to take the game over too much. He was like 12 for 27 through the third quarter the other night. Too many shots when you got Holiday, and they do miss Middleton for sure, I think. But I just
I'll get Middleton back, and that'll be a big thing. I look at the Middleton injury like I look at the Padres, and the Padres picking up Robinson Cano. Once they get Fernando Tatis back, that's like a mid-season pickup. So, those pickups when they're out, when they come back, it's just an added dimension to the team.
Agreed. Let's move on to football and the Steelers, and let's talk about their schedule as they open the season they got you said the Patriots. They don't play the Patriots till week 2, by the way. They do open with the
home opener with the Patriots. They open up in Cincinnati.
Yeah, they open with Cincinnati. Couple of tough games to start, and maybe the Browns. Who knows? We don't know who'll be playing quarterback. I could be playing quarterback for them in week 3, I guess.
Well, I circled the wagons for November 13th. It's the day before my birthday. The Saints are in Pittsburgh. And the next day, Monday Night Football on my birthday, the Skins and Eagles get it on in Philadelphia.
Yeah, you got to put a 20 in the jar over here now for saying Redskins, but that's okay. We allow that on this show. We allow that.
So that's going to be interesting to say, but the Steelers' schedule is brutal. Not like last year when they had the toughest schedule in the league. And I will tell you this. The Steelers are the least less traveled team this year. I don't even think they get out of their own time zone.
I think that is possibly true, yes. And that's one of the oddities of the schedule for sure. What do you think? Are the Steelers, and again, Kenny's got a comment here where he's really ripping both New Jersey teams, that the USFL has better teams than New York and Pittsburgh, which might be a little harsh.
I don't know about that. My Maulers are completely terrible. They should just start over.
I tried very hard to watch. I can't do it.
Yeah, especially when your team can't win a game. That's the big problem there. And it's tough to sit there and watch those guys blow game after game each and every week.
You're getting off topic a little bit. I think the big problem with this league is these games can't all be played in one place. I know they're trying to save money.
No, they should have played them in the cities. Then I could sit there and watch them play in Heinz Field and feel like I'm part of Pittsburgh again. But they play in Birmingham, Alabama, and that's the thing. There's no home field advantage.
Oh, just a horrible decision by them to do this. I know they're trying to save money, but
even traveling.
Let's see. I got a comment here about Pittsburgh. So Carlos says Pittsburgh. I got money that TJ Watt scores more touchdowns than Daniel Jones. Oh my God, the Giant and Pittsburgh fans here are going at each other. So anyway,
they're the black and gold brigade. These guys, they know their sports and they're just trying to, they're getting excited. A few hours, we're going to get the Rangers and Penguins going at it. Maybe we could drag the Statue of Liberty and throw it somewhere in the Allegheny.
What other? That's a good one. What else stands out to you about the NFL schedule? Anything that really?
Well, what stood out is they teased us. We got these tease jobs on it. We got the one, the Monday night thing came out, the Thursday night. They started teasing us before they brought the whole schedule out. I kind of like it. I will tell you this. Somebody told me out here that the Rams are going to go 5-1. The Rams got the toughest schedule in their schedule. They're going to have like a Steelers schedule last year. They open up Super Bowl. They open up with Buffalo at home. Good luck with that. I think Josh Allen comes into SoFi and lights them up. There's some other big games. They get the Cowboys on their schedule. They're going to be playing the Raiders. The other thing that stood out to me is the Raiders, for years, I think it was 20 years, they didn't go into Pittsburgh since the Immaculate Reception. Seems like every year now they're going into Pittsburgh. They go back into Pittsburgh December 24th. boy, hide the kids and everybody out there. You don't want the Raiders coming to your town on Christmas Eve.
Good question. Good. That's a good poll question for me, I guess. So, and I got a question for you too, a different poll question. But if that game were played today, the Immaculate Reception, would it still stand as a touchdown? Now the rules had to be the same. The rules have changed, right? So the offensive player can touch the ball first. At that point, he couldn't. But I mean, there's still dispute whether the defensive. Let's assume the rules were the same. And the offensive guy or the defensive guy touched the ball first, and the ball that hit the ground with instant replay, would that play stand up today?
I think it wouldn't. I think it was remarkable when you look at it. That play is, it's quite different than the tuck rule, and stuff. But when you look at that play, to end that game like that was just simply remarkable. I think the people in Oakland / Los Angeles / Las Vegas are still bitter.
You know what? And one of the things that would be, even with replay, even if it stood up, we'd be watching it for 20 minutes, and I don't think we'd remember that play the same way today that we do.
Oh no, it was amazing. It was amazing. I kind of show off my colors. I got to tell you, man, I was at a garage sale, a couple of weeks ago with a buddy. I picked up a Jack Lambert jersey, stitched and everything for nothing. Pretty much. I go, wow.
See, we got a couple of questions here again towards the Steelers. Hold on. Carlos wants to schedule some games for a bunch of us, the regulars, and you to go to some football and baseball games, and he'll pay for it.
Yeah, we got to do something, man. I know you and I will get it on in August when the Pirates and Yankees get it on. 2 games in Pittsburgh, 2 games in New York. Yeah, that's a big one, man. And I will tell you this. I can't believe, man, your Yankees. I told you, I've always liked Aaron Boone. They are just unbelievable to start the season.
Well, I've not been a big Boone fan, but he's done a great job so far this year. And again, I had this discussion before. I don't look to fire guys just to fire them. I wanted to fire him because I didn't like what he was doing. Plus, I thought there was a better option available in Buck Showalter, who has also had some very good success this year. So Boone gets a reprieve right now. The Yankees are playing some great baseball, and some of the things that were a problem last year have not cropped up this year. So that's a good thing.
Right. I think the Yankees are rolling. I think Toronto's going to be a thorn in their side all year. Boston's a big surprise, falling apart. But the Angels are right there too. And the one team, they kind of remind me of your football team, New England. Year in and year out, you can lose guys left and right. I don't care if it's Correa, Springer, whatever. The Houston Astros just keep winning.
I talked about it earlier in the show. They do that. That's next man up. They play very well. Dusty Baker has an even hand with that team. And they play baseball. Look, there's still a lot of today's game in every team, but they are a bit of a throwback. They have good pitching, good defense. And it's not all just home runs or bust. And I like the way they play. And, I'm tired of, and I like the way they've moved past the whole issue with the sign stealing, which I think was totally overblown and ridiculous.
Oh yeah, I do too. I think Rob Manfred's going down as the worst commissioner in baseball. This guy is terrible. I thought Bud Selig was terrible. This guy has no clue what's going on. I mean, the rule changes and everything are just bizarre. I'll tell you, the one thing I like is every team will play every team started next year. Mm-hmm. I like that scenario. So you're going to start to see some of these marquee guys come into some cities, and that's going to be good, because I think what happened years ago in hockey, where you didn't get Crosby coming out, a lot, and they were, you got to marquee the superstars. And if you don't, then nobody knows who the hell they are in some of these cities. So with Stanton and Judge coming around in National League parks, that's going to be interesting, just like Fernando Tatis coming around in American League parks.
Yeah, as long as it isn't done at further cost to division schedules. Already they slashed it to 18 games within your division, which with each team, and I don't want to see it get slashed further, because division play should still matter in my mind. But The game's
Well, I
gotta
think
be-
it should, but I don't need to see the Tigers play the Royals 18 times a year. Let's get the Tigers playing, the Padres and Dodgers and stuff like that. I think if you bring it down to a substantial amount, I mean, it used to be 19, then they brought it down to 18. If you get it down to about 15, I think that will, we can work with that, even 14. But to see the,
that's only 45 games or 60 games in your division out of 162, and I don't like that. It cheapens the meaning of winning the division.
Right. Yeah, a little bit. And look at the NFL schedule. There was years Tampa didn't go to Buffalo. The Falcons didn't go to play the Giants. And we alluded to earlier with the Raiders and Steelers in the same AFC 20 years before they went to Pittsburgh again after that immaculate reception. So
Yeah.
I think some of these things need to change. When was the last time, the Baltimore Orioles were in San Diego? I mean, these things need to change to a certain, but when was the last time the Padres were there? Or, vice versa. I remember the last time the Yankees were in LA. It's been a lot of years. And, the Tigers finally came out here this year after, 7 years. So I think, if you're a Tiger fan or you live in a different city, you want to see your hometown team come to, play. I can't remember the last time I think the Pirates were in Anaheim.
Probably a long time ago. Again, I think they try. I think they try to keep the regional rivalries, playing year after year in the interleague play, which is the right way to go. But I'd like to see the Dodgers and Yankees play a series every year. I think it would be kind of cool. But you got to make it even too, right? The Yankees are going to scream if they get the Dodgers every year. The Dodgers are going to.
Well, I think the last time the Yankees were out here. And I know that because I went there. It was when Mariano Rivera was on his farewell tour. So depending how long that was ago, that's the last time the Yankees were in Dodger Stadium.
Good point. Let me touch on something else in the end. Do you think it's a big deal? This is the NFL, another NFL story. And I didn't touch on this earlier as I didn't have time, and I think it's kind of a non-story, but it's kind of getting blown up a little bit. Ryan Tannehill has gone out publicly and said, look, I'm not going to be helping, Malik Willis grow as a quarterback. That's not my job. My job is to play quarterback and go out and win games. Personally, I don't think it's a big deal because I don't think it is his job to do that. That's a coach's jobs. Other quarterbacks, it's happened the same way. I mean, Brett Favre said the same thing about Aaron Rodgers when Aaron Rodgers got to Green Bay. Do you think this is a story or a non-story?
Well, you don't want to be in the center stage there, and that's a teammate that's coming in. It's a rookie. Somebody showed you the light. I mean, you don't want to come out publicly. You can hide those feelings if you don't feel like you want to do something to help the kid. But sooner or later, the kid's going to take your job. So you can adapt or you can fight it. And Tannehill's been all over the place. I think that the thing in Tennessee is a toxic situation. It really is.
Yeah.
Vrabel I like. I mean, you know him from the New England days and everything, but this guy's really, fallen off the perch here. This team was the number one seed that got beat by Cincinnati in their backyard. We've seen Julio Jones end up there. I mean, they've had a lot of guys come in there. The one guy that they added there that I kind of hated, and in Pittsburgh, if we lose a guy, it really doesn't come back to haunt us, but I really like Bud Dupree. But seeing the whole Tannehill situation unfold there, I don't understand it. I don't quite understand the Malik Willis thing falling all the way down pretty much to the third round there. But the system fits him perfect in Tennessee. Just hand the ball off and just stand there and watch the runners run, and Derrick Henry. But I don't know. To me, it's a toxic situation in Tennessee.
Yeah. I don't think this particular situation is a big deal. He should have kept his mouth shut, not broadcast it publicly. But, even Carlos pointed out that even Willis said, no, it's not his job to do that. And, can't look at Tom Brady's done the same thing. He just didn't say it publicly. When Jimmy Garoppolo got drafted, he said, it's not my job to trade my successor, but he didn't go public with it until after he was gone. So
$375 million. I think this will be his last year. Fox, thought to themselves, wow, we better, sign this guy long term. This guy's going to be good. I think.
How do we know that Tom Brady, other than some behind the scenes stuff with ESPN, with the Tuck Rule documentary. If you haven't seen it, by the way, it's a great documentary on ESPN Plus, and some other stuff. Tom Brady hasn't shown that he's going to be an outspoken person when it comes to doing colored analysts. I almost see maybe a Joe Montana situation here where this guy flames out badly.
I don't know. A lot of insight. The best quarterback of the generations, and and I'll tell you, he's got a lot of insight and everything. Troy Aikman has done a well-deserved job. Tony Romo's like over the top. I kind of like Tony Romo, but then there's some that just that are out there that are just kind of bland, and you got to kind of get used to. Brady could be one of those kind of guys you get used to.
Feels a little desperate on Fox's part, though, throwing a 10-year, $375 million contract out there in a very unproven commodity when it comes to the job he'll be assuming. And I wouldn't assume he's going to retire after this year either, but this gives him more incentive to do so, that's for sure.
Well, I'm trying to still figure out if we can find 5 teams in the NFC that can represent the Super Bowl. I keep stopping pretty much after that. So, I can't find a 6th. I can't find a 7th.
Well, let me take a look. I had the standings.
I've got the Packers, Rams, Bucks, Cowboys, and Skins. That's what I got. I can't find a 6th or 7th after that.
All right, I'll give you the teams I think in the NFC that have a chance to get to you said the Super Bowl, right?
Yep.
Definitely the Rams. Definitely the Buccaneers. That's 2. Definitely, oh boy. I'm going to say the Cowboys.
Well, you'd have to go to Packers, Cowboys, and Skins.
I'm going to have to say Cowboys and Skins I'll agree with. I don't think any. I'm not even sure I can throw the Packers in there. You're right.
Well, the Cardinals are on the brink.
I'm going to give the
Vikings are on the brink.
Yeah.
The 49ers are on the brink, and the Eagles would be on the brink.
I'm with you. I got 4 teams. I got the Cowboys. I got the Redskins. I got the Buccaneers. And I'm sorry, 5 teams. Rams, and I'll give the Cardinals a nod as well. 5 teams. There's my 5 teams with a chance.
The Cardinals and Dolphins remind me of mirror images of each other. Small quarterbacks. Who's going to lead their team to the promised land first? If I had to take a chance, I'd probably have to lean Miami because they got a lot of weapons now, and they got a 3-headed monster, and I like Sony Michel a lot. And I just don't understand a guy like that leaving New England, leaving the Rams. Great running back. Kind of reminds me of Wilbert Montgomery.
That's a good he's built like Wilbert Montgomery. It's a very good comparison, actually. Very good. Well, Mark, tell us what we can look forward for you this week before we let you go.
I'll tell you one thing. Tomorrow I'll do the Pittsburgh Pirate podcast with Derek Brock live from Wrigley Field in Chicago. Also this week on Liberty Bell Smack, Scott Spezio will be joining us, along with William Kulik, the Spanish announcer of the Philadelphia Phillies and Philadelphia Eagles.
Excellent. Sounds like some good stuff.
Unbelievable, and I love you dearly. This is a show that's sweeping the country. The Sunday setup, man, the throwdown, man, I love you, and all these great listeners each and every week.
All right, great for having you, and Mark, have a great Sunday. We'll talk to you next week.
You too, my good friend. I love you.
All right, bye-bye. Mark Mancini from Mancini Media comes in and shares his insight. It's a little skewed sometimes, but we like to have a little different view here and there. We'll talk again about the Dream Ride Experience, by the way. Signature fundraising event for the Hometown Foundation, which Northeast Streaming Sports is going to be a major sponsor of. I'll play the video on the way out. Guys, thanks for coming in today. Great lively discussion, obviously, with the hockey and with the baseball and even the football. Good stuff, Carlos. I wasn't ignoring all your comments. Maybe we'll put together some kind of road trip with the guys. We'll see what we can figure out. You guys with some great feedback. I know Alan, some good stuff here today. I love the comments, and you guys help drive this show so much. And I love having you guys do just that. So thank you for that. We'll be on again on Wednesday with our college football huddle, which we'll start getting maybe Jim Biringer in a few times here and there to give his input. He's not just a hockey aficionado, but he's very good on college basketball and some other sports. And we'll be on Friday with the Are You Serious show as well. And then catch my vlogs. Usually I record them and they come out on Friday. And with that said, I guess I'm going to say have a great Sunday afternoon. You guys have been tremendous. And Carlos, enjoy yourself at the ball game today. Kenny, be careful. Don't hurt yourself out there today, please. And we'll talk to the rest of you guys later. Have a great Sunday. Keith Engel for TGI Sports Talks. Stream of consciousness here on Northeast Streaming Sports. Have a great Sunday.
The Hometown Foundation is excited to bring back the Dream Ride experience, August 26th to the 28th at Connecticut's Farmington Polo Club. Join us in celebrating the accomplishments of our Dream Riders while enjoying live music, a car and motorcycle show, family fun zone, pet adoptions,